Hey guys, Metal Jesus here. Now, since the RetroN 5 was released, game collectors everywhere have been asking for support for the Sega Game Gear and also the Master System. Well, now Hyperkin has released that adapter. In addition to reviewing this, I'm also going to show you a bunch of games that collectors that are new to those systems might want to check out. Let's take a look. First off, let's have a little refresher of what the RetroN 5 actually is. This is a clone emulation system that plays your physical cartridges, and it supports a bunch of different systems, including the original Genesis, Mega Drive, also the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, NES, Famicom, and also some really cool handhelds like the original Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. And here is the box for the 3-in-1 adapter. Inside, not a whole lot, basically just what you need, and that is the adapter itself. Now you'll notice it's fairly large, and that's because it supports 3 different sizes of things you can plug into it. On the top is the Sega Master System. On the right-hand side is where you plug in the Game Gear cartridges. And then on the left is where you plug in those Sega cards. Remember that I mentioned that the RetroN 5 is a clone emulation system. So on the box here, you're gonna notice that you're gonna need to upgrade your firmware. Not a big deal, not hard to do, but just be aware that your entire RetroN 5 is gonna get an upgrade. And then to play some games, you simply plug the adapter into the Genesis slot. And let's start with some Master System games. Let's start with Phantasy Star. Phantasy Star is one of the benchmark RPGs released in the 1980s and is still considered a classic today. There are many things to like about this game. For me, I really dug the sci-fi fantasy story. Also has great graphics for the time. It still looks pretty good even today. I like how it has a top-down map. Plus it has first-person interaction, both when you talk to NPCs and also the combat. And then you can't forget about those amazing 3D dungeons to explore. It's a really awesome game. Check it out. Next, let's check out some Outrun. So what can I say about Outrun that you haven't heard a million times before? This is obviously a racing game. It's based on an arcade game, and it's really just timeless. People still love playing this game even today. And like all the other systems that the RetroN 5 supports, this also has support for filters. Now, right now, you're looking at Outrun running with no filters on, so in theory, you see all the pixels that you should, but not everybody is a fan of that. So let's go ahead and turn on some of the filtering and you can compare the two. You'll notice now that the pixels are a bit softer, maybe a bit rounder. And for some people, this is absolute blasphemy. This is completely unacceptable. And I totally get it, but you know, there are times whenever maybe the game is a little bit more pixelated than you expect, and at least you have the option. Let's go ahead and turn that filtering off and see if you can see the difference. Outrun is a great arcade racing game on the Sega Master System. Definitely check it out. By the way, if you're curious, I'm actually playing all of these games in this video using a real Sega Genesis controller. I love how the RetroN 5 supports this. And now an absolute classic on the Master System, Wonder Boy 3. Wonder Boy 3 Dragon's Trap is a fantastic platform action game on the Master System. Things that really stand out for me are the bright colors and graphics, the really nice controls. I also really dig that the game is mostly non-linear, which is kind of cool. It's also worth noting that this game is so well loved, so fondly looked upon by fans, that it's actually going to be getting an HD remake coming soon. So if you love 2D platforming games and you're starting to collect for the Master System, this is a must-own. I love my shooters, and Phantasy Zone 2 is awesome. Phantasy Zone 2 is not your typical shooter, and I think it's pretty obvious why. I mean, look at these bright colors, and also you have some just crazy enemies, and the overall design is just unlike anything I've ever seen. Now, some people would call this a cute 'em up. I know not everyone's crazy about that term, but for me, I actually really like these kind of games. I think they're fun, something a little bit different. Also, this game really reminds me of Defender. Some other games you might want to check out if you're starting to collect for the Master System. Of course, you got to talk about R-Type. This is a really great version of this game if you like shoot 'em ups. Now, one of the things to note about this is that it supports the advanced FM sound chip. So this adapter will support that, which means that the audio will sound even better. Sounds really great. Also, there is a great version of Shinobi on it. Now, it may not be necessarily the best, most accurate version of Shinobi, but I think it plays really well. Super fun. Now let's switch over to another system. Let's play some Game Gear games, and we'll start with Shining Force. Oh man, this is such a great game for the Game Gear. This is a tactical role-playing game that is considered one of the best on the system. So good. It was actually remade for the Sega CD, but we'll cover that at another time. Now you may be noticing that the text is really big. Well, that's because, again, the Game Gear was a handheld, and at the time, the screen only had a resolution of 160 by 144 pixels. So the RetroN 5 is actually stretching those out to fill your HD television. But I still think it looks really nice. Of course, you couldn't have a Sega console without a Sonic game on it, and Triple Trouble actually is a really good one. Now, this was released originally as Sonic and Tails 2, but it's basically a sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog Chaos. For me, the standout feature for this game is the graphics. I think they just look amazing, really colorful, really fun. Now, some people complain that this game might be a bit easy. I personally don't find it to be super easy, but then again, I'm not great at the Sonic games, but you should definitely check it out. This next game I want to show is called GP Rider. This is an arcade motorcycle racing game, but the reason why I want to show it is to compare the different filters, because while I showed the filters being applied to Sega Master System games, I think they actually have more of an impact on the Game Gear because of the lower resolution. So here is the game with no filters applied, and it's pixelated, but I think it looks pretty good. And here is the game with some filters applied, rounding out the pixels and smoothing out the graphics. Again, completely optional. Here's a vertical shooter that I enjoy quite a bit called Halley Wars. Now, I believe this is based on a stand-up arcade machine called Halley's Comet, and it makes sense because in this game you're trying to shoot down comets that might be hitting Earth. What I like about this game is that the difficulty feels just right. It's not too easy, it's not too hard. Keep in mind that this game was originally designed for a very small screen, but when you blow it up to your large HD television, it almost makes it easier and certainly makes it a lot of fun. Another cartridge you're going to want to buy is Streets of Rage 2. Now, I'm including this in here not only because it's a really fun side-scrolling beat 'em up, but I also want to show you again the filters applied. I'm doing this because for some people, I think when they see these old Game Gear games, they might get a little bit turned off, and turning on these filters really sometimes can help. See, check it out. So this is no filter right here. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Again, it's total personal preference, but it's there if you want it. Some other games you might want to check out on the Game Gear. Here is Shinobi 2. And dare I say, I might actually like it more than the first game. Here is Aerial Assault, which is a decent horizontal shooting game. Now, it's not going to win any awards or anything. It's not going to blow your socks off, but it can be found cheap. Lion King is based on the Disney movie, of course, and is considered a classic on the Game Gear. And then the last format that this adapter supports is the Sega card. Now, I don't have a lot of these. There weren't actually a lot of them released. But if you're going to support the Master System, you do have to support both formats. Here I have Transbot. Let's take a look. As you can see, this is a horizontal shooter, but what's cool about this one is that it's kind of inspired by the Transformers, meaning that half the time you're playing as a starfighter, but then you can sometimes transform into a robot. What's interesting about this game is that your power-ups don't last for very long. There's actually a limited amount of time that you have them. So some of it's kind of luck as far as this game goes, and some of it's kind of skill. I would say overall, I don't know if I would highly recommend this game, but it is cool to have it in that little card format. So you're probably curious how much it costs. Well, it currently sells for $60 through Hyperkin. I'll put a link to their website down in the video description below if you want to get some more information. As you can tell, I'm actually pretty excited about this, primarily because I've been casually collecting for the Game Gear and the Master System for a couple years now. but this is going to make it so much more convenient for me to play it on my big screen television here and also capture footage for videos. Really looking forward to that and beefing up my collection a little bit. Love to know what you guys think. Please post a comment below. Also, I'd love to know what adapter you would like to see Hyperkin make next. Me personally, I'd love to see them make an Atari Jaguar adapter. That would be so cool. Love to see that in the future. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing, and take care. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, you're going to want to be subscribed to my channel because I release two, yes, two, I'm crazy like that, but 2 new videos every single week on Tuesday and Friday. Also, I have a website. Man, I'm just like pimping myself all over the place here. Check out MetalJesusRocks.com. Thanks for watching, guys.